Behind the flash of cameras and the warmth of endless smiles, how many love stories have quietly broken apart while the world applauded their shine. How often do we mistake a polished photograph for happiness, never knowing the sacrifices behind it? In the 1970s, Majors and Farrah Fawcett seemed untouchable, Hollywood's golden couple, glowing with beauty, charisma, and success. He was the fearless Steve Austin on television, the $6 million man, admired by millions, and she was the angel every magazine adored, the woman whose face defined an entire era. Together, they appeared like perfection itself. But behind those flawless images, their reality was far more fragile. At 86, Majors has finally spoken with honesty, sharing the truths he carried in silence for decades, truths that reveal how even the brightest romances can hide shadows too deep for cameras to capture. Farrah Fawcett's path to stardom began long before her name echoed across the country. Born and raised in Texas, she was remembered for her kindness and striking beauty, a young woman who could disarm a room simply by smiling. At 21, she left home for Los Angeles, her dreams packed with hope and ambition. She started small, appearing in commercials and picking up minor television roles. Hollywood noticed her quickly because she didn't just stand out for her looks. She radiated a charm that made people believe in her. Around this time, Majors was already carving out his reputation. Audiences knew him from the Big Valley, and he was gaining the kind of recognition that marked him as a dependable television star. Their worlds brushed against each other when Lee's agent showed him a photo of Farrah, encouraging him to reach out. The first interaction between them was anything but smooth. Lee left a blunt dinner invitation on Farrah's answering machine, an approach she found both bold and somewhat arrogant. Still, curiosity pulled her in, and she agreed to meet. That evening, despite nerves and awkward silences, something began to stir between them. Lee's simple gesture of sending her 13 yellow roses after that night softened her doubts. The roses symbolized friendship and care, but to Farrah, they were more than that. They revealed a tenderness beneath Lee's confident exterior. Their connection grew quickly, and soon, Hollywood's cameras were eager to capture them together, parading through premieres and elegant parties as if they were the embodiment of young love and fame. The public called them the golden couple of the 70s. On glossy magazine covers, Lee looked every inch the strong, unshakable hero, while Farrah shone with a light that felt new and irresistible. They appeared destined to be a love story that would stand the test of time. Yet in private, things were different. Farrah was careful about her career moves, often choosing slower steps so she could stay close to Lee, opting for commercials or smaller TV parts instead of leaping directly into big films. Lee, on the other hand, wanted a life that reflected stability, with traditional expectations, dinners at home, rules, and routines that reminded him of calmer days away from Hollywood's chaos. It wasn't control as much as it was his way of building safety, but to Farrah, it sometimes felt like a weight pressing against her growing independence. They shared their fears and doubts openly in the beginning. Farrah confessed her insecurity about whether she truly belonged in acting, while Lee admitted the constant pressure of fame left him longing for simplicity. They tried to meet in the middle, balancing love with ambition, but fame is rarely a gentle guest. Slowly, the stress of their growing careers began to seep into their marriage. From the outside, they still looked flawless, but inside, small cracks were forming, cracks neither cameras nor fans could see. By the mid-70s, their fame had reached heights neither of them could have predicted. Majors became a cultural icon as Steve Austin, his face recognized in nearly every American household. At the same time, Farrah's role in Charlie's Angels turned her into a phenomenon almost overnight. Her feathered hairstyle became a global trend, and her red swimsuit poster found its way onto walls across the country, making her one of the most recognizable women of the decade. But with this immense fame came grueling schedules and constant separations. Lee would later admit that there was a year when he saw Farrah for only 2 weeks. How could any marriage withstand that kind of distance? The demands of Hollywood do not pause for personal lives. Lee's days often began before sunrise, packed with filming that stretched into the night. Farrah's schedule was just as consuming, filled with photo shoots, late-night shoots, interviews, and appearances. They were in the same city, yet often felt worlds apart. Farrah struggled to keep up with Lee's wish for a traditional home life, something she once tried hard to honor. But as her career rose, it became impossible. She wanted to succeed not just as someone's wife, but as her own person, with her own identity. That inner conflict grew sharper with each passing year. In public, they maintained their glamorous smiles, holding hands for cameras and attending premieres as though nothing was wrong. But behind closed doors, the silence between them grew louder. Friends and family noticed the change. Their conversations grew shorter, their time together rarer. For Lee, Farrah was slipping away, not because of malice, but because fame had placed her in a world even he couldn't reach. For Farrah, Lee's expectations sometimes felt like chains, holding her back from the independence she had worked so hard to build. And then came Ryan O'Neal. He was one of Lee's close friends, someone he trusted deeply. When Farrah was away filming and lonely, Ryan became a source of comfort. At first, their closeness was innocent, a shoulder to lean on during long nights away from Lee. But as time passed, the bond shifted, turning into something more complicated, something that would ultimately reshape all their lives. Ryan was captivated by Farrah's warmth, and soon the media picked up on their growing connection. Suddenly, whispers of a love triangle dominated tabloid headlines. For Lee, the betrayal cut deeply. The friend he trusted had stepped into the space he had once occupied in Farrah's life, leaving behind wounds that would scar him long after their marriage ended. By 1979, their separation was no longer just a rumor. The couple could no longer hide the reality, and the media swarmed the story. Their breakup became a public spectacle, with tabloids dissecting every detail, from their $2.5 million estate to Farrah's endorsements. Despite the heartbreak, Lee spoke little about his pain, retreating into silence as the world speculated about jealousy and betrayal. He had once hoped that once the $6 million man ended, they might find a way back to each other, but by then, Farrah had already built a new life with Ryan. Their divorce, finalized in 1982, marked the end of what had once been celebrated as Hollywood's perfect romance. Farrah plunged headfirst into her volatile relationship with Ryan O'Neal, a love story filled with passion and turbulence that would dominate headlines for years. Lee, on the other hand, sought peace and privacy. He remarried later, finding stability with Faith Majors, but the memories of his time with Farrah never faded completely. Even decades later, the emotions lingered, feelings of love, regret, and what-ifs that still haunted him. When Lee finally spoke candidly in his later years, he surprised many by avoiding bitterness. Instead, he explained their separation in quiet, heartbreaking terms. It wasn't betrayal or anger that destroyed them, but the reality that their careers pulled them in opposite directions. Fame demanded sacrifices, and in the end, it demanded their marriage. The truth was not dramatic fights or public scandals, but the gradual drifting apart of two people who once loved each other deeply. That subtle honesty struck a chord, reminding us all that sometimes love isn't enough to hold people together when life pulls them down different roads. Lee admitted that the hardest part was realizing how much he still loved Farrah, even after everything. "I love Farrah, and I always will," he confessed in one rare moment of openness. "There is nothing I would like better than for us to work out our problems." Yet he also understood that not all wounds could be healed, and some choices, once made, cannot be undone. His silence over the years was his way of protecting what little remained, his memory of a love that, despite its flaws, had been real. Their story is not one of villains or heroes, but of two people caught in the merciless machinery of fame, trying to hold on to each other while the world pulled them apart. It reminds us that behind every dazzling Hollywood couple, there can be private battles we'll never see, heartbreaks that no red carpet can fix. Lee's words in his later years remind us of the human truth hidden beneath the glamour, that love, no matter how strong, sometimes cannot survive the weight of unrelenting pressure. As we look back, their relationship feels less like a fairy tale and more like a bittersweet lesson about life, fame, and the quiet cost of dreams. Lee and Farrah will always be remembered as one of the most iconic couples of their time, but the real story lies in the spaces the cameras never captured, the silences, the sacrifices, and the love that could not last. And if you've been moved by their untold story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories from behind the curtain of fame. There's always more to learn from the lives of those who seem to have it all, yet carried invisible struggles the world rarely saw.